Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker from My Favorite Things. I have a slightly different kind of project to share with you today using one of my favorite dies. This is the treat bag topper die from My Favorite Things. It's an older die, but I love it so much because it's so versatile. I love to put together these little treat bags, and the great thing about this is you could easily make it for lots of different occasions. You could do Halloween, Christmas, Valentine's Day, birthdays. There's a lot of things you could do with this. So like I said before, I'm going to be making some Valentine's Day treat bags for my kids. I have 2 kids, a boy and a girl, so I'm going to need 2 of these, so I cut 2 of the toppers out of white cardstock. Next, I grabbed the cable knit sweater stencil, and I taped one of the toppers to the back of the stencil so that it stays in place, and I blended on that with some light gray ink. For my other topper, I'm going to be using the cable knit sweater stencil as well, but for this one, I decided to pull out my Spun Sugar Distress Oxide ink and blend that on there for a nice pink color. I didn't want the backgrounds on these to be too dark. I wanted them to be kind of subtle, so I chose pretty light colors. I picked out some stamps from 2 different sets. I have the koala from the Koala-ty Time stamp set, and I have the cute little sheep and pig from the Hug It Out stamp set. I used my Misty tool to stamp those with a black Copic-friendly ink, and I stamped them onto some Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock, and now I'm coloring them in with my Copic markers. When I was picking out colors for this koala, I knew that a lot of koalas are done with really cool gray colors, but I really wanted to use my warm grays for this. And I do kind of think that I chose that because I play the game Animal Crossing. I don't know if any of you have heard of Animal Crossing, but it's a game for the Nintendo Switch, and you get little animal residents in your village, and one of my residents is a koala, and it kind of looks like this. So I kind of wanted to pick these colors because of that. And I do think that that was a really good decision because I love the way that this turned out. I think that it is such a cute little koala bear. By the way, if you're curious about any of the colors that I'm using, I did set the marker caps off to the side so that you could see all of those colors in case you wanted to follow along with the coloring. I used one of the basic Copic coloring methods here, where you start with your lightest color and work your way up to your darkest, adding in all of your shadows and shading, and then you work your way back down to the lightest again, blending out all of those colors. Alright, so the little koala bear image is going to go on my son's Valentine, and I thought that this image of the sheep hugging the pig was perfect for my daughter's Valentine. My daughter's 3 and she really loves animals, so I knew that she'd love this because it's got a pig and a sheep, and for a little while, sheep were her favorite animal. When I was coloring in the wool on the sheep, I grabbed a really, really light warm gray marker and I added in all of the shadows. And I also used that marker to add a little bit of texture to the wool to make it look not so flat. Once the coloring was done, I grabbed the coordinating dies and I taped them down before running that through my die cutting machine. Then I set these aside while I worked on my sentiments. I'm going to be making a lot of sentiments. I decided that I wanted to put 3 sentiment strips on each of my Valentines, so I needed to stamp out 6 sentiments. I also really wanted a variety in the colors of cardstock for my sentiments, so I picked out 5 different colors. The sentiments that I'm using are all from the Bitty Hugs and Kisses stamp set, which has a ton of sentiments for Valentine's Day. I made sure to prep all of my cardstock with a powder bag before stamping, and I stamped with Versamark ink, and then I embossed all of these with a white embossing powder. I grabbed one of the ribbon-edged sentiment dies from the Skinny Strips die set, and I lined that up with each of these sentiments and cut them out. I used a liquid adhesive to adhere all of the sentiments. It makes it a lot easier because it gives you a little bit of time to be able to move that sentiment around and straighten it out. I put some foam tape on the back of my 2 stamped images and I popped them up right on top of these sentiment strips. One thing that I would change about this if I were to make them again is I would make sure that I lined up all of my sentiments so that the first letter on each sentiment is lined up. It kind of is messing with me because I went to school for graphic design, so I am just seeing that and I want to fix it so bad so that they're lined up and even. It's just really messing with me that they're not. But at the time when I was doing this, I just didn't think about it and I didn't see it until after it was done, and by then I couldn't change it. Anyway, that's just something that I would fix in the future, and I just wanted to give it as a tip in case you decide to make these. While I was rambling, I stamped some hearts next to my sentiments. Those hearts are from the Hug It Out stamp set, and I stamped them with a red ink. And then I found this Valentine's Day stamp. This is also from the same stamp set that the sentiments came from, and I'm stamping that on the back of the topper with the same red ink. All right, so now for the fun part. I pulled out some candy. These are M&Ms, and they are the Valentine's Day colors, and I'm putting them into a treat bag. I then very carefully folded up the end of the treat bag, and while I was doing this, I was making sure that no air was inside there, so I keep pushing down on the area with the candy to get any of the air out of there because I don't want a big air bubble in my treat bag. Once I was happy with the fold, I grabbed just a regular office stapler and I stapled 2 staples across the top to keep the bag secure. And I did the same exact thing with a second treat bag for my second Valentine. So here's what my topper looks like when it's folded. The die does create a score line for you so you know where to fold it. I'm going to grab a really, really strong double-sided tape and add that to the inside of this topper on the areas that are going to be touching the bag. You want to make sure not to add this adhesive onto the little loop on the top. Then all you have to do is remove the backing paper on the adhesive. I like to use a craft pick to do this. It makes it a lot easier. And then you want to very, very carefully line up that topper with the top of the bag. And you really do have to be very careful because once that adhesive touches the plastic, it's adhered and there's no going back. I wasn't super careful with the second one and my adhesive did touch the plastic, and I had to commit at that point to where it was because it wasn't coming off. But it was really okay because it turned out super cute anyways. Even if it wasn't quite straight, it's adorable. I love the way that these came out. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you really enjoyed this project and that it gave you some ideas. I highly, highly recommend this die. It really is my favorite. I love making these little treat bags. They're such fun gifts for friends and family. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.